I went to an event, and that's what leads me to talk to you today about Meet the Neighbors and how I came to create that event for all my clients, and how I feel about events and how difficult it is to get people to come to events, right? So I used to hear a lot of the times my clients would say, Sharon, I have a great idea. We're going to do a Meet the Doctor event. It's a terrible idea. Nobody wants to meet you. Nobody. People don't want to go to the doctor, A. They don't want to go to the dentist, B. And why would they want to come? Like, what value are you giving to them? So although I understand it and I respect that you think that somebody wants to come and meet you, they just don't. So one day I was driving to a client in the Tampa Bay area, and I saw a very famous building that stored a lot of very influential people in this building that won't be mentioned right now. And my client was right next door, and I said, hey, who do you know over there? And he said, well, I don't know anybody. Well, I think it's time that we meet the neighbors. And that's really how it started. So that's simple. Meet the Neighbors started. And now I do them at all of my client offices, and I do them strategically 7:30 to 9 a.m. because people don't want to meet. I mean, if they don't have to, they just don't want to. Most people want to go home at the end of the day and see their families. My physicians want to go home at the end of the day and see their families because they get up at the crack of dawn, they go to the hospital, they do rounds, they see patients, and it's exhausting. So entrepreneurs, CEOs, a lot of people feel the same way. So I am of a certain age where I don't do the happy hour thing anymore. It's not a happy thing for me to do. I like to do very early morning events because I am an early riser. So this way people can go on about their day as soon as it's over at 9 o'clock. They come in, we meet the neighbors. I purposely started at 7:30 knowing that nobody's showing up until 8 most of the time. 8 to 8:30, we go around the room, we talk about our business, or a fun fact or a good book we've read, but we're always stating who we are and what business we have so we can figure out together how we can refer business to you. That's the goal, right? So it's not come to my client's office so you can become a patient. It's come to my client's office so we can offer you value. How can we help you, right? Nobody wants to be sold to. I'm going to talk about this all the time. If they want it, they're going to come and get it, right? So providing value, educating, and RSVPing. Like, come on. I did go to an event today that I wasn't in charge of, and I felt bad about it. I did, because there were 3 people there. And well, there were more people there, but the rest of the people worked there. And you have to kind of silently stalk people, which is a talent that I have. They don't know they're being stalked, but I'm doing it in a very pleasing manner. And I usually find super connectors. Like, who's a super connector? Who has an audience? What other group can I collaborate with so it's not so difficult for me to bring an audience in, right? So I find super connectors, I give them value, and then they help me in return. And it's, it's not that difficult, but it is that difficult because you have to spend time putting in the work to create a relationship. I will get up at the crack of dawn. I will pick up breakfast for my Meet the Neighbors event at a client office where I have 15 people RSVP'd, and that's all I want. Because if I have 300 people in a room, I'm never going to be able to have a relationship with those people. Keep it small, keep it intimate, provide value, introduce people, do good. Just do good for others. That's really what I do. It's not that difficult, but it is difficult if you don't know how to do that, right? So hosting events is not easy, but there's an art to it. If you are not good at doing events, hire somebody else to do it. Bring in somebody that can connect people. It's just like when you go to an event and you're sitting at a table and you only talk to the person to the right, you need to read Never Eat Alone. Maybe I'll save that for the next one, but Never Eat Alone. You do not talk to the people that you know already, okay? What are you doing there? Get value out of all of your time. Be strategic.
And poof, just like that, here we are in 2020. A little different than it was in 2017 when I did that video about Meet the Neighbors. 3 years, updated my visor. I actually don't really wear visors too much anymore, but I wanted to keep the theme going for anybody that's watching. If you're listening on the podcast, maybe you'll check us out on Facebook Watch on the Dr. Whisperer. But the only thing that's really changed with Meet the Neighbors is it's gone virtual. So we'll be doing our first virtual Meet the Neighbors on Friday the 13th, my favorite day. It just happens to be the day I was born, not this Friday the 13th, but actually Friday the 13th. It's 13th Avenue Media is the name of my media company that this show is powered by. It's also World Kindness Day. So what better day to show kindness for $3 than to do a virtual Meet the Neighbors event. This event is unbelievably going strong still to this day. It's just grown. And the opportunity to meet more people and introduce more people to your business, like it's global now. So I always like to look at the silver lining of the tough times that we're in. And boy, oh boy, are we in some tough times. 2020, actually I watched the 2017 video and I was like, oh, you didn't even have AirPods then. You poor thing, you had a wire hanging down from your ears. Technology is it, people. So now a lot of my medical practices that I work with have gone to telemedicine, teletherapy, and now I offer telewhispering. So I don't leave this office that much unless I'm going to the beautiful collaborative workspace that I'm in Clearwater, that I run my businesses out of, 13th Avenue Media and the Dr. Whisperer, and it's a well building. And that's the only place I would go right now because I know they are taking all of the precautions that we need to still take in this pandemic. A lot of people have been talking that we're going to be in the second wave. We're in the second wave. So the numbers just show that. So here we are, Meet the Neighbors gone virtual. Oh yeah, and I wrote a book since 2017. Who knew that you could actually not stay in a box? You can grow, you can change, you can evolve, and you can do the same thing in business. So I'm really, really excited to do this virtual Meet the Neighbors powered by 13th Avenue Media. We're going to meet via Zoom. I feel exactly the same way as I did in 2017. Everything is the same except we're going to be obviously on Zoom. So what does that mean? That means more people can attend. That means if you have the right business in place today, which calls for everything needs to be online. So if you have the right social media, which 13th Avenue Media offers, so if you don't, you need to get with us. And if you can't afford it and you need consulting for 13th Avenue Media for your social media, we can do that too. You have to actually be online in order to tell people what has changed in your business since the pandemic hit, since 2020 hit. And now here we are. We're in November. We're moving towards the end of the year. We're going into 2021. Not too much is going to change, everybody. We're going to be in this pandemic for a while. I only know this because I work with really smart people, mostly doctors, and well-informed about the future and what we are to look forward to, which is Zoom, which is incorporating some type of telemedicine into your practice, telewhispering for me, online products. I mean, I made the shift in every way possible, recorded my book on Audible, like you have to go into action. I've been saying that since the beginning. I'm so happy and proud to say that we have done over 100 shows since the pandemic started. I couldn't do that without 13th Avenue Media. So if you really want to grow your business, there are more ways, of course, than to do it via social media, but I'm not sure how you can survive if you're not pushing content out today. But in business, I'm not talking about in life. You can certainly survive without pushing out content in life. But please consider joining us at this Meet the Neighbors. You will meet some super connectors You can see how I run a virtual event, and you can implement the same in your business. We are all here to help each other. I think joining this event is a great idea if you don't have a job, because the best way to get a job today is really to be connected to the super connectors. I'll talk about my favorite book, which is Never Eat Alone. I always talk about that book when I talk about connecting and networking. Listen, we have to keep going no matter what. At the end of the day, we have to keep our mental health in check, right? And we have to keep on going. And however that looks for you in life is really a big part of how you do it in business. I don't feel half of the stress that I used to feel running my business. I was watching my poor little self back in 2017. I cut out all the parts of how it was nighttime when I recorded that video, because I had just gotten home from my last event and I had to do a Meet the Neighbors event the next morning for a client. So, not a lot of driving happening for me, which is great for the environment. And we're talking about sustainability more and more. We have so much opportunity. And I think that if we take things slowly, taking care of ourselves mentally, taking care of ourselves physically. I cut out all the parts about how I started my day riding my bicycle back in that 2017. Not much has changed, except I do a lot more online demand workouts now. And I talked about being in nature, and I talked about how I have to keep my levels of stress in check. We just honored National Stress Awareness Day this week, and we talked about it on our show with Dr. Jerry Pizer. Dr. Jerry Pizer, I hope, is going to come to the event, and there's nothing changed about the time either. I know a lot of people tend to sleep a little later now because they don't have the urgency of getting in the car and driving wherever they have to now, or getting on an airplane, and people can join us from all over the globe. I love that. I love that opportunity. So I'm looking at that silver lining. I'm looking at how many more people you can attract to your own business. But in order to do that, you have to have systems in place. And we're going to talk about that during the event. You're going to get to see how it's done. So join us for our first virtual Meet the Neighbors with the Dr. Whisperer, me, powered by 13th Avenue Media. I would be nowhere and be nothing without my team. They make everything run and flow for me while I continue to coach clients. I'm going to get off this video now so I'm not late for my virtual coaching. I just noticed the time with one of my clients via Zoom. So thanks everybody for joining. And I look forward to seeing you Friday the 13th, World Kindness Day, at our virtual Meet the Neighbors. Bye. So don't forget, if you mention that you have seen the show or listened to the podcast, Thai Technology, 3 months for free.